Hello students. Yes, we are going to discuss with the concept of the metals and non-metals. In the metals and non-metals, we already completed with the physical properties of metals and non-metals and also the sum of the chemical properties of the metals and non-metals. Is it? And also we discussed with how the metals are reacted with the non-metals. Yes, in the last class only we discussed that how metals are reacted with the non-metals. And also we discussed with what is the definition of the ionic compound. If the transfer of electron takes place in the elements, then that type of the compounds we known as the ionic compounds. And also what are covalent compounds? The mutual sharing of electron takes place between the elements that we called as a covalent compounds. This concept also we discussed, right? And also we discussed with the one of the example for the reaction of the metals and the non-metals. What is the example we discussed for that? If you see what is the example we discussed for that is we discussed about the sodium chloride, right? NaCl. We discussed with the concept of the sodium chloride. Sodium is a metal and chloride is a non-metal. You already know that if that metal, if it is reacted with the non-metal, you will get the ionic compounds. If metals reacted with the non-metals, you will get the ionic compounds. What it is, if the non-metal is, if it is reacted with the non-metal, you will get the covalent compound. This is already you know the concept. And also you know that the study for the sodium plus chloride. How exactly the sodium metal is reacted with the non-metal chloride to form sodium chloride. Today we are going to discuss with the next one example for the formation of the magnesium chloride. That is, the magnesium is the metal. That magnesium, it is reacted with the chloride, non-metal, to form magnesium chloride. Now we will start discussing with this. Okay. If you see, what is the electronic configuration of the magnesium? If you see what is the electronic configuration of the magnesium is, it is 282. What is the atomic number of magnesium? 8 plus 2, 10, 10 plus 2, 12. Therefore, its electronic configuration is 282. What is the electronic configuration of the magnesium? If you see, the electronic configuration of the magnesium is 282. If you see the outermost shell here, okay, if you see the outermost shell, how many electrons are present in the outermost shell? 2. If we are going to remove this outermost shell, that is 2 electrons, magnesium attains the octet configuration. You already know that what is octet configuration. What is octet configuration? If in the last orbital, if it is as a 8 electron, in the outermost configuration, if the orbital has the 8 electron, then that configuration is called as octet configuration. Therefore, if you are going to remove these 2 electrons from the magnesium, I am just removing the 2 electrons from the magnesium. It forms Mg2 plus and also it attains the stable electronic configuration. What is going to attain? It attains the stable electronic configuration. That is octet configuration. What is going to attain? After the removal of the 2 electrons. After the removal of the 2 electrons from the magnesium, it attains the octet configuration. The octet configuration is the very stable configuration. What happens therefore in the magnesium? Here the magnesium going to remove the 2 electrons from it and it attains the octet configuration. Okay, this magnesium going to react with the chlorine, right? Magnesium going to react with the chlorine. Here the magnesium is the metal and if you see the chlorine is the non-metal. Here the metal and the non-metal are react each other to form the ionic compound. Okay, if you see for the chlorine. Okay, if you see the chlorine. What is the electronic configuration of the chlorine? If you see the electronic configuration of the chlorine is 287. What is the electronic configuration of the chlorine? The electronic configuration of the chlorine is 287. If you see the outermost electronic configuration, that means outermost orbital. How many electrons are present in the outermost orbital? 7 electrons are present. If these 7 electrons are present, means if it attains the octet configuration, if it going to attain the octet configuration, means how many electrons are required? To attain the octet configuration of the chlorine, how many electrons are required? 1 electron, right? If we are going to add 1 electron to the outermost orbital, if we are going to add the 1 electron to the outermost orbital, it attains the octet configuration. Here we are taking the 2 moles of the chlorine. Okay, here we are going to take the 2 moles of the chlorine. Therefore, how many electrons is required to be added? For 1 chlorine, 1 electron is required. For the 2 chlorine, 2 electrons are required, right? For the 1 chlorine, if you see the electronic configuration of the chlorine, it is 287. Therefore, how many electrons are required? 1 electrons are required, right? I am taking for the 2 chlorine. Therefore, how many electrons are required for this one? 2 chlorine. If you see, if you are going to write the dot structure for the magnesium, this is the representation of the dot structure of the magnesium. That is, the outermost electron is 2. That's why I am going to write the 2 dots. If you see chlorine here, okay, so you are going to see chlorine here, the outermost electrons are present in the chlorine is 7. Therefore, I am going to put the 7 dots to represent the how many electrons are present in the outermost shell. Okay, after that, what is the how much of electrons is required to attain the octet configuration? 1 electron is required, right? For the 2 amount of the chlorine, 2 electrons are required. Therefore, these 2 electrons are added to the chlorine to form the stable electronic configuration. If you see here, okay, I am taking the 2 chlorine. 1, 2, that's why written as the 2 chlorine. Here the blue color dot indicates that the addition of the electrons to the chlorine. What it indicates here? The addition of the electrons to the chlorine. After the addition of the 2 electrons, one for this chlorine and one for this chlorine, this electronic configuration, if you are going to see the electronic configuration of this chlorine is 288. First it is 287. Okay, first if you see that it is the electronic configuration of the 287. But after attaining the getting the electrons, what happens means it attains the electronic configuration of the 288. Is that the stable electronic configuration? Yes. Therefore, after the addition of the 2 electrons, to that, it also gets the electronic configuration of the 288. Therefore, here the chlorine also attains the octet configuration. Therefore, here if the magnesium are going to lose the electron, it attains the octet configuration. If here the chlorine going to add the electron, then also it attains the octet configuration. Therefore, what happens? What happens between the magnesium and the chlorine? If you see the reaction, I am going to show the reaction here. If you are going to see the reaction, if that magnesium, if it is reacted with the chlorine, magnesium having how much of electrons in the outermost shell? 2. This is the 1 and this is the 2. Magnesium has the 2 electrons. Magnesium 1, magnesium 2 electrons. These 2 electrons are reacted with the chlorine. Okay, this chlorine atom wants the 1 electron and this chlorine atom wants the 1 electron, right? This magnesium reacts with the 2 chlorine molecules to form the 2 chlorine. If you see the electronic configuration, it is 281. I said that the blue color dot indicates the addition of the electron from the magnesium. Here the magnesium going to give the 2 electrons, right? the 2 electrons was I written in the blue colored dot. Here the blue colored dot indicates this electron is obtained from the magnesium. Therefore, what will be the overall reaction then? Magnesium plus 2 chlorine give rise to magnesium chloride. If you see here in the magnesium chloride, here the transfer of electron takes place. Okay, here the transfer of electron. If you see in the magnesium and the chlorine, magnesium going to transfer the 2 electrons to the chlorine to attain the stable electronic configuration. You already know what is the definition of the ionic compound. If the transfer of electron takes place, between the element, then that type of the compound we call it as an ionic compound. If you see here, the magnesium is the metal, chlorine is the non-metal. Metal and non-metal react each other to form the ionic compound. What type of the compound is the magnesium chloride? Magnesium chloride is the ionic compound. Understood? This is the very important question for your examination. How the formation of the magnesium chloride takes place. As that, give an example for the formation of an ionic compound. Any example you can write. One is I will discuss with the sodium chloride. Now we are going to discuss with the magnesium chloride. Just one time I will give the brief for this one. If you see, what is the formula of, what is the electronic configuration of the magnesium is 282. Therefore, it has the 2 electron in the outermost shell. That's why we are going to remove the 2 electrons. Magnesium has the 2 electrons in the outermost state. That's why we are going to remove this 2 electron from the magnesium to form Mg2+. And it attains the stable electronic configuration, that is 2,8. After that, when you come back to the chlorine, here the chlorine has the capacity to accept the 2 electrons. Therefore, it accepts the 2 electrons to form the stable electronic configuration of the 2,8,8. After that, the magnesium and the chlorine are going to transfer the electrons. Here, the magnesium going to transfer the electron to the chlorine. How many electrons was transferred from the magnesium? Magnesium going to transfer the 2 electrons to the chlorine. Magnesium going to transfer the 2 electrons to the chlorine to form Mg2+ and Cl. If you see that after the formation MgCl, it forms the Mg2+ and Cl2-. What is going to form? The overall reaction, if the Mg, if it is reacted with the chlorine, it forms the ionic compound, that is magnesium chloride. Therefore, what are the 2 important compounds we discussed? We discussed with the 2 important compounds, that is the first one is the sodium chloride and the second one is the magnesium chloride. Understood? Which is the first compound we discussed? We discussed with the first compound of the sodium chloride and also we discussed with the second compound of the magnesium chloride. After discussing with the formations of the ionic compound, now we are going to discuss about the properties of the ionic compounds. What are the important properties of the ionic compounds? If you are going to see the properties of the ionic compounds, there are 4 important properties you want to study. What are the 4 important properties we want to study about the ionic compounds? The first one is the physical nature. The first thing we want to discuss about the physical nature. The second one we are going to discuss about the melting point and the boiling point. The first one we want to discuss about the physical nature. The second one melting point and the boiling point. Third one solubility and the fourth one the conductivity. What are the 4 important properties we are going to discuss for the ionic compounds? The 4 important properties we want to discuss is physical nature, melting point and the boiling point, solubility and conductivity. Now we will start discussing with the one by one. We are going to discuss the 4 important properties one by one. The first one we are going to discuss about the physical nature of the ionic compound. What may be the physical nature of the ionic compound? If you see what is the physical nature of the ionic compounds means, The ionic compounds are solid and are somewhat hard because of the strong force of attraction between the positive and the negative ions. If you see the nature, if you see the physical nature of the ionic compounds are almost solid. Okay, if you see the physical nature, almost all ionic compounds are the solid and also strong. Why it is strong? Due to the reaction between the positive and the negative ions. If you see here only, here the magnesium is the positive, Mg2 plus. And if you see chlorine, it is Cl minus. Therefore, the relation between the positive ion and the negative ion, the force, the attraction between these two elements are very strong. And also, these compounds are gently brittle and break into the pieces when pressure is applied. If you see this type of ionic compound, they are brittle. If you are going to hit that one, it just break it. Why it's going to break means, it's going to break when you are going to apply the pressure. When you are going to apply the pressure for any of the ionic compound, it gets break. This is the first characteristics of the ionic compound. This is the first one, physical nature. If you see the ionic compounds, almost all the ionic compounds are solid and also have the strong force of attraction between the two elements. Why? Due to the presence of the positive as well as the negative ions. And also you can tell that the ionic compounds are brittle when you are going to apply some of the pressure to it. This is the first property. After discussing with the first property, the next property we are going to discuss about the melting point and the boiling point. What is the second property? The second property we are going to discuss about the melting point and the boiling point. What is this melting point? What is this boiling point? Melting point means if solid go to melt. Okay, if any of the solid going to melt, that we call as a melting point. Boiling point means if the liquid start evaporate, that we call as a boiling point. You want to know the differences between the melting point as well as the boiling point. Melting point means the substance, the solid substance which starts melted, right? That point we call as a melting point, and the boiling point means the substance, the liquid. Okay, the liquid start get evaporated. That we call as a boiling point. If you see if you are going to see the melting point and the boiling point of the ionic compounds means, the melting point and the boiling point of the ionic compounds have high melting point and the boiling point. If you just, now I will give the examples. If you see the melting point and the boiling point of the ionic compounds means they have the high melting point and the boiling point. This is because why it has the high melting point and the boiling point means, this is because considerable amount of energy is required to break the strong interionic attraction. You know that there is an interionic attraction between the ionic compounds, plus and minus. They are very strongly attracted. To remove that attraction, if you are going to remove that attraction between the two elements means lot amount of the energy is required. Lot amount of the energy is required to break this one. Therefore, that they have why they have the high melting point and the boiling point. If you see some of the example for the ionic compound and their melting point and the boiling point means, if you take the example of the sodium chloride, okay, just take the example of the sodium chloride, its melting point is 1074 and its boiling point is 1686. If you see lithium chloride, the melting point is 887 and the boiling point is 1600. Calcium chloride, melting point is 1045 and the boiling point is 1900. And if you see calcium oxide, the melting point is 2850 and its boiling point is 3120. And the magnesium chloride, if you see the magnesium chloride, its melting point is 981 and the boiling point is 1685. It observes the values. If you observe the value, we can easily tell that for almost all the ionic compounds, we have the high melting point as well as the boiling point. After discussing with the melting point and the boiling point, now we are going to discuss with about the solubility. What we are going to discuss after discussing with the melting point and the boiling point, now we are going to discuss about the solubility. How it one? If you see, the almost all ionic compounds are generally soluble. Okay, generally soluble in the water and insoluble in the solvent such as kerosene and petrol. If you see the solubility of the ionic compound, almost all the ionic compounds are soluble in the water. If you see, almost all the ionic compounds are soluble in the water. But what? It is insoluble in the solvent. Okay, but it are insoluble in the solvents such as kerosene and petrol. But they are very soluble in the water. After that, the last one is the conductivity. So the last one is the conductivity or conduction of electricity. If you see, the conductivity of the electricity through a solution involves the movement of charged particles. If you see, in the ionic compounds also you have the charged particles. Due to the presence of the charged particles, the ionic compounds conduct the electricity in the molten state. Ionic compounds are if you are seeing that the ionic compounds are the good conductors of electricity. But when they are in the molten state. Okay, when they are only in the molten state, then only they are going to tell that the ionic compounds are the good conductors of the electricity. Why only in the molten state? If you see that this is possible in the molten state because the electrostatic force of attraction between the oppositely charged ions are overcome due to the heat. Why only in the molten state they are going to conduct the electricity means, you know that the interaction between the opposite charges are there. If the charges are present means it's not going to conduct the electricity, but it opposes. When you are going to heat that molten liquid, okay, the molten ionic compound, then the heat, what you are going to put that heat, going to opposes the charges. Then only we can say that the electricity is conducted in the ionic compound. Therefore, what? The ionic compounds are the good conductors of electricity. If you see the physical nature, they are solid, strong. If you see the melting point and the boiling point, they have the high melting point and the boiling point. If you see the solubility, almost all ionic compounds are soluble in the water, but insoluble in the kerosene and the petrol. Petrol. After that, the next is the conductivity. If you see that almost all the ionic compounds are the good conductors of electricity, but in the molten state. These are the some of the properties of the ionic compounds. Understood that? These are the some of the properties of the ionic compounds. After discussing with all these things, next we are going to discuss about the very important concept, that is occurrence of the metal. Where you are going to see the metals? Where you are going to see the metals? Is that metals is present in the outer atmosphere? No, right? Where exactly you are going to see the metal? If you see that the major source, okay, if you see that the major source of the metals are the earth crust. What are the major sources of the metals? The major source of the metals are the earth crust. And also some of the metals are present in the sea water also. That means some of them are present in the sea water also. But the major source, the major occurrence of the metals you can see in the earth crust. After discussing with that occurrence where it is present, now we are going to discuss with the extraction. Before going to discuss with the extraction of the metal, why we are going to extract the metal? Is there any need is there? That means any useful thing is there for the extractions of the metals? Yes, right. So many useful things is there for the extractions of metals. With the extracting the metals only we are going to get the gold, silver, iron, Okay, copper, this all are the metals, they are extracted. After the extraction, what we are going to do? The gold, silver, platinum, we are going to make into the jewelries, and the iron we are going to make into the, we use it that one for the constructions of the buildings. Like that, we have the so many usefulness. Okay, we have the so many usefulness for the extractions of the metal. In the extractions of the metal, you want to know some important definition. Before going to start discussing with the extraction of the metal, we want to know some of the important definitions. What are the important definitions you want to know? What are the things you want to know before starting with the discussion of the extraction of the metal means? The first one we are going to discuss about the first important definition is of the minerals. What is the important first definition? In the extraction of the metal, the first we are going to discuss about the minerals. What are minerals? Can anyone say that? What are minerals? Okay, can anyone say that what are minerals? What are minerals? If you say you want to write the specific definition for the minerals, what are minerals means the natural material in which the metals or their compounds are found in the earth. One more time I just tell the definition. What are minerals? It is the natural material. Okay, it cannot be extracted, that means it cannot be made. It is the natural, how we get. The natural material in which the metal or their compounds. Directly you will get the metal, or some of the time you will get the compounds of the metal. First thing, the natural material in which the metals or their compounds are found in the earth. Metals or their compounds are found in the earth. That we call it as an minerals. What are minerals? One more time I will tell the definition. The natural material in which the metals or their compounds are found in the earth. That we call it as an mineral. This is the most important definition. What is minerals means? The natural material in which the metals or their compounds are found in the earth. That we call as an mineral. After discussing with the minerals, the next important definition you want to know about the ore. What is the next important definition? You want to know the definition of the ore. What is ore means? Just those minerals. Okay, after the obtaining of the minerals, those minerals from which the metal can be extracted. Those minerals from which the metals are extracted. First you get the minerals. After getting the minerals, then we are going to convert that minerals into the ores with the use of profitable. Okay, it should be the profitable. Okay, that we call it as an ore. What is ore? If you see that what is ore means, the definition, those minerals from which the metals can be extracted conveniently and profitably. That we call it as an ore. These are the two important definitions that what you are going to discuss. After that, yes, I said that we are going to study about the extractions of the metals. First of all, understood the minerals and the ore. Mineral is the natural thing that you obtain it. That we call as a mineral. Ore means after the obtaining the minerals, we are going to extract that ore from the mineral profitably. That we call as an ore. After discussing of the extraction, after discussing of the two definition, next we are going to discuss with the extraction of the metal. For the extraction of the metal, the first thing you want to remember the active series. Did you remember that reactive series I explained in the last class? Yes, if you see the active series, what are the metals that present in the active series or reactive series? If you see that the metals that present in the active series is, first is potassium, sodium, calcium, magnesium, aluminium, zinc, iron, lead, copper, mercury, silver, gold and platinum. This is the reactive series. You already written this one. Okay, this is the reactive series. With the use of this series only, we are going to extract the metals. How we are going to extract the metal? With the use of the reactive series only, we are going to extract the metals. What are the steps involved? What are the steps involved in the extraction of metals? If you see that, what are the steps that involved in the extraction of metal is, the first step we are going to do concentration of the ore. What is the first step involved? The first step is the concentration of the ore. Second step, conversion of the concentrated ore into metals. The first step is the concentration of the ore. Second step is conversion of the concentrated ore into the metals. After that, refining of impure metal. These are the three important steps. The first step is conversion of ore. Second step is conversion of concentrated ore into metals, and the third one is refining of the impure metal. These are the three important steps that present in the extraction of the metal. What are the steps involved in the extraction of metal? Concentration of ore, conversion of the ore into the metal, and the third one is the refining of the metal. These are the main important three steps involved in the extraction of the metal. Understood the concept? Okay then. In the next class, we are going to discuss about how we are going to extract the metals. Okay, how we are going to extract the metal from their respective ores. Up to that, bye everyone.